charge up in that balcony? Daniel? I'm hoping. Hoping that you're going to pass the buck to somebody else, Nathaniel? Nathaniel pointed to Eli. I hope Eli points to somebody else. So anyways, it's a blessing to have you here. So I'm not going to waste any time. Because what's going to happen now is this. After everyone else stay, we're going to have a luncheon together. And you are welcome to come. The bad news is the cornball's got to get right on the road. We didn't know that till this week because they were heading right to Pennsylvania. They've got to make it to Pennsylvania for a meeting this evening with another church. And so, but please stick around. We're going to have a meal together. And did anybody bring it? Did anybody make any good stuff? Did you make something? So Susan and I are going to go down there and have a romantic dinner together. I'm going to bring her out to dinner. So let's have a word of prayer. Let's have a word of prayer. And then after prayer, I'm going to have John, and John, however you go ahead and begin reading, okay? And so please excuse them that because, again, they've got to get on the road. And so we'll make sure we have enough time for questions, right, John? If anyone has any questions, if you want to say hello and stuff. But please be considerate of the fact that they've got to be in Pennsylvania a certain time, okay? Thank you so much. Let's have a word of prayer. Go ahead, Anna. Lead us in a word of prayer, please. Comes, I want to say thank you really that you guys are such support of missions. It is a blessing to be that way, so thank you so much.
Okay, well, good morning. It's good to be with you all this morning. Just a little bit of background, what brought us here and so in the summer of 2016, we were raising funds to go as missionaries to Ireland. And we were on this little tiny island called Campobello Island. And we met this lovely family, the Hawk family. And so that's kind of what began our connection with your church here. And of course, the Hawks being from here and all.
John, can I clear something up, please?
Yes.
When you talk about lovely family, you're talking about God, right?
I'm just going to stay out of this one, okay? So anyways, we had been in ministry. My wife and I started in full-time ministry back January 1st, 2006. We were with Child Evangelism Fellowship in northeastern Pennsylvania and served in a 2-county area there with another guy. When we came on in ministry, that was 2006 through about 2012, 13, somewhere in there. And then we switched to the next county over and started directing the work in Lackawanna County, which is Scranton, Pennsylvania. And while we were there, we had the opportunity to go to Ireland and really fell in love with Ireland. And God called us there, and so that's how we met the Hawks as we were traveling around raising support to get to Ireland. We spent 3 years in Ireland, 2017 to 2020. My wife came back in the June of 2020 with 4 of the kids. I stayed behind to finish up some projects at our center over there. When we went into lockdown there, it was complete lockdown. You couldn't travel more than about 2-3 miles from where you lived unless it was something you had to do, like go grocery shopping. And they had police checkpoints. If you went to a grocery store that was farther, they could turn you around and say, nope, go back and go shopping at that one. I don't care how expensive it is and how small it is. That one's closer. So finally, they opened up construction first. And so I went back to our center and doing construction work. And so I was involved in some of the work we were doing there. We had a lot of projects going on. And so we came back summer of 2020. And we began to raise funds to, you know, the typical missionary thing. You always have to, you're always raising funds. So we were working on in the fall of 2020, trying to make it back. And God really closed that door. Here, I got a couple pictures and things I'll throw up here as we go. So we came back from Ireland the summer of 2020, and we were traveling around. I visited lots of different churches, telling them how we were going back to Ireland. And then they were still in lockdowns. And we knew it was always going to be a struggle to come back. We knew that from before we even went to Ireland, because they were tightening visa process. And while we were there, they went through several major changes. Matter of fact, right after we got there, they changed it to an extent that we wouldn't have been able to go there under the visa we were on, and basically any visa. So God knew. And every step of the way, you see the hand of God. And so in the winter of 2020, it became very clear that we weren't going to be able to make it back. And that was really hard for me particularly. I really struggled with that. I was like, God, you called us there. I love Ireland. That's where my heart was. And, whenever God has called us to a place, I'm always kind of 100% in. Like, I'm there until God says otherwise. And so we were there, and that's where my heart was still. And so through all this process, we were meeting with a guy with our mission, and then our sending church pastor, and just really talking through, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to transition? And they said, John, you need to consider Ireland closed. I'm like, but, and they said, no, you need to consider Ireland closed. I'm like, but, and that was very hard. It was a little bit of a tiny bit of a death to me, in my vision there. So they said, you need to look at other missions. So we were, other mission opportunities. So they said, knock on doors, let God close doors. And so we did that. And we were looking at actually going to, our mission is BCM, Bible Centered Ministries. And we were looking at going to a camp in Canada. They needed a director there. And so we were looking at that. And really, it's several different needs they had around. And it became obvious, of course, this is during COVID, they said, it's really not going to work for you to get to Canada. Like, sorry, but that's not going to work either. It's like, okay, God. And so then we looked at some other U.S. camps, and those doors closed. And so here we are. I don't know about you guys. Maybe I'm the only one, but waiting has to be the hardest thing. Like, man, I will work my heart out for you, Lord. That's not, it's got its own challenges. But waiting is so hard. And it wasn't like we were sitting doing nothing. We were involved in missions. I was doing a video project for our mission, and we were involved in a local church there and all. But God just kept closing these doors. And one of the needs we knew about is Mandeville Camp and Retreat Center up in upstate New York. For you guys, some of you guys are familiar with Messina area or Malone or Potsdam. It's about a little over 3 hours northwest of you guys, right up there against Canada. And so we heard about this. Our U.S. director mentioned about this camp among with others, and I immediately just felt no peace. I said, this is not for us. But at the same time, my wife and I felt like we needed to go there this past summer. So we went there for 2 weeks, and we're serving there this summer. And without getting into a lot of details, things kind of blew up while we were there. There was a lot of issues. And young staff, way too many young staff that had no desire to serve God. We'll leave it at that. And that caused a lot of issues. And so here we were in the middle, and I kind of, God always knows what he's doing. And it became very obvious why God had put us there, because I was playing a little bit of the referee in the middle of the ring. Not that I watch boxing or anything like that, but that's kind of what I was playing. It was like, you go in your corner, you go in your corner, and whoa, let's take a deep breath, let's talk this out, let's pray about it. And we wound up running camp the next week. And so we did. And we went back, and we knew the staff, whoever was there, was not going to be there again. Those that were directing the camp. And so we thought, okay. And that didn't really mean anything to me, because God wasn't giving us a call there. And we knew they were going to close their doors if they didn't find a director. And I felt no pressure at all, because I know you don't go somewhere unless God calls you. Well, about a month later, the president of our organization sent me an email. He said, John, he said, I know we were looking at foreign missions in Europe, somewhere else at this point. And he said, I know you're thinking about that, but would you consider going for even a year or two to Mandeville and just kind of help them get going? And Lord willing, you know, of course, the whole idea is they'll find another director. And so I said, okay. And so we began to pray about it, and immediately I just felt, you know, that God said, you need to pray about this one. And so here I am, I'm praying about it, and my wife's saying, I think we should go. And we're going, please take no offense, folks, but New York is like on the bottom of the list of where we wanted to live, okay? So please don't get offended. But I had no desire ever to live in New York State. Between California and New York State, it's like, Lord, anywhere but, you know? And so when she's saying, I think we should move there, we're like, this is definitely not us. We have no desire to move to New York State. And so we're praying about it, and eventually just really felt this is what God had for us. So this is September-ish of last fall, and they said, okay, if you come, we need you in place. If you're gonna come, you got to be there like beginning of the year. And we're like, okay. I had just started a part-time position at a church there as their children's coordinator. I'm like, how do I tell them? I just started, but now I need to, you know, leave. And they were very, very gracious. They said, you go where God leads you. If he's leading you on, we knew this was going to happen. You made that clear from the beginning. Go with our blessing. So then we thought everything we owned is, well, not everything, but a lot of our stuff we left behind in Ireland in storage. We can't just leave that there. We got to go through it and do something with it since we're not going back to Europe. So we made a real quick trip there in November and went through everything. And then beginning in December, just a few days later, we moved out here from Minnesota where we were living at the time. And it was crazy, but we made it. And God is always good. So here is a satellite map of the grounds there. They used to have like 400 and some acres. We're down to about 208 acres now. And that was just a neat story how God gave them the land, but I won't get into that today. So we needed to get here early in the year because they hold 3 winter camps in January and February. So we kind of had to hit the ground running and trying to get staff. And if you get our newsletter, you may be, particularly if you get our newsletter by email, you would have gotten a quick email on a Thursday, excuse me. We're supposed to start camp that afternoon. And I had found out Monday I lost 1 counselor. Thursday I only have a half counselor, I'm going to call it, because she could only be there half of the time. Friday morning I lose 2 guys. And I'm going, you got to understand, we run camp on just 2 guy counselors, 2 girl counselors, okay? So we have 1 giant dorm for guys and 1 giant dorm for girls. And I'm going, well, we have about half of a girl counselor and 1 guy counselor. This doesn't work. So somebody responded to that email and said, it's a good thing you have so many kids, because our girls jumped up and they were junior counselors for the girls. I went in the dorm. The girls helped with music. I heard it and put games together, and I knew people were praying for us. So if you were praying for us, I could feel the prayers of God. I thought I should be freaking out right now, and I felt such peace. I'm there studying going, man, trying to come up with games and all this stuff because I had to do everything now. And so I just felt, I feel so much peace. This is not normal. This is so God. So it was really neat to just feel the peace of God. So here's some pictures from Snow Bowl and some numbers. The youngest camp in the beginning of January, we have 9 children, which is great to keep those numbers low because you find out you have kids that aren't even potty trained that show up for those. It's quite interesting. The middle one is the one that I just told you the story about. And I believe firmly that a lot of times when things get really hairy and really tight and you don't know what you're going to do, that's when God's going to really work. And I just felt, God give me so much peace. And I was teaching the lessons for the first 2 camps. And Thursday night when I gave an invitation, I saw 4 kids that raised their hand. And I don't know you know, if God truly saved them, if they were just raising their hand or where they are spiritually. But it was like, okay, God, this is why, you know. And so just pray for them. I have up there a couple of praise and prayer requests. Praise God for those that made decisions for Christ. Pray for them. Pray that God will work. You know, one thing that really hit me when we were up this summer is how needy the area is. In the churches up there even, you know, I'm just not used to. I came from a good Christian family. And we have all these half-siblings. It's so confusing. I can't even understand it. It's like you have these two have the same mom, and then this one here has the same dad with them. It's like this, they're all connected with half-siblings all along the way, and I'm going, this is in the church. And I'm, you know, get outside of the church, and these kids are dealing with so much baggage. Last summer, one of the teen camps I was talking to, there was this one girl that came to my wife. My wife was serving as a counselor, and Kelly wanted me to talk to her later the last day of camp. And so I was chatting with her. The one girl, I thought, okay, this girl comes from a solid home. And I began to talk to her, and I'm like, oh my, she comes from anything but a solid home. And that's just the makeup of the families today, and it's just such a need for Mandeville up there because, again, there's no Christian camp within hours that I know of, at least, of where we are. We do need a maintenance director. They've had two couples on staff for 12, 13 years before COVID, and then things kind of went through all kinds of struggles there. And so we are now the only ones there. And so as you can see, there's a need. I'm trying to do everything, the work of two people, and so it makes for some very long days and a lot of stretching. So pray for God to raise that up. Summer staff. You know, I thought camps were regulated in Ireland. They actually have a lot less regulations than you guys do. If you don't know this, you can't have under 18s, but they're basically, in the eyes of the government, really just kind of a camper. So we need staff that is over 18, and one of the things that's two big problems, A, we're new to the area and don't know people, and two, a lot of these people, honestly, the people I meet, there's a lot of people that actually would have the time. I really don't want them serving as counselors because they're not prepared. You know, their mouth is just as filthy as the world. They're no example to the young people, so we really need staff. So I'm going to put it out there to you all. If you have any interest at all, particularly medical staff is the hard one to fill because the person has to be an EMT, nurse, doctor, somebody with some medical training to serve in that position, and we need somebody there 24/7 during camp. That's the state, you know, the rules that we have to abide by. So if you want to be a part of camp, we'd love to have you for a week, for the whole summer. Just going to say that would be fantastic, really fantastic, whether it's counselors, medical staff, you know, help in various ways, maybe in the kitchen or other areas as well. So if you have any interest in that, please see me afterwards. We also do a program we call Base Camp, which is kind of like counselors in training or CLTs or whatever other camps call it. But the idea behind it is training the teens to be future leaders. And so if you'd like to be a part of that program, that's for 9th to 12th graders. Lord willing, we'll be running that program. I say Lord willing because I'm still trying to, we had somebody in place and then they had to back out. So we're still trying to find somebody to be over that program. So we kind of run two camps at the same time. We're training staff at the same time as we're running our regular camps. Here's some pictures from, there we go. My computer will wake up and work with me here. Of course, it wants to get stuck now. Well, whatever. When I get it going again, you'll see some pictures here from snow camp and some of the kids that we have there. There we go. We'll get it running. I have to restart it here. I don't know what's going on with it. There we go. So some pictures from camp, and by the way, two things I want to make clear, because I get people are confused about these two things. One, I want you to know we are not going to Mandeville temporarily. Okay, so I have people come up to me, so then are you going just for a little bit? No, again, my belief is that particularly with all that Mandeville has been through in the last several years, they went through 3 directors basically in 3 years. And so, as you can imagine, that's not real healthy, and they need stability. They need somebody that's going to take them forward and be, again, a place where God is honored. And as somebody said, you know, this place was known as a place that people could get away and could just feel the peace of God, and we want that back. So pray with us along that way. And then secondly, Mandeville runs. People think, oh, are you paid by Mandeville? No, we raise support just like any other missionary. And so through this transition, we actually have had several supporters go on to glory. So they're in a better place. But we've lost over $1,000 in the last year of monthly support. So that's obviously a huge cut to things. This summer, we're looking for, again, staff. We're looking for people to be a part of our program. And by the way, if you have any desire, we have up here on this table, we have a lot of different flyers and paperwork that you can grab so that you can learn a little bit more about us and the mission. There are camp brochures as well. Now, it's over a 3-hour trip for you guys. But if you are so inclined as well, campers are welcome to come the whole way from this area as well and be a part of our camps. Also, our newsletter. If you currently get our newsletter, fantastic. But if you don't and you'd like to get our newsletter, we send it out both by mail and by email. So if you'd like to receive that, please sign up and put whatever details down there that you want to receive it by. And we send that out about every month. I said in the past it would be every month, and then now I'm so busy it is all I can do to get a monthly newsletter out. This May, we're going to be having some churches come up and do some work trips. And your pastor and I just talked real briefly, I don't remember, it was a couple weeks ago when we were talking the first time several weeks ago. And, you know, sometime in the future, you guys would love to come up and do a work trip. We'd love to have you guys as well. So I'm just going to kind of throw that out there as well. One of the ministries that we saw was really needed. When we were in Ireland, a ministry that God threw on us that we never even expected. I started out in kids work, and I thought, you know, I work with kids. Well, then, when I was with CEF, every summer we would train our young people for 2 weeks in a training program. And so, you know, you're working with teens and young adults in that. And I really loved working with the teens and young adults. And so really loved building relationships with them. And many of them, those relationships have continued. Some of them even support us now as missionaries, which is really cool. Well, when we went to Ireland, we had interns that are most of them would be 18 plus, and they might take a year or whatever off before they went off to college or university. And so they'd be working at our center there. And because of how things work in Ireland, it's very, very expensive for a young person to get their license. Most of them would not have their license. And so they're stuck at the center, kind of really dependent on rides. And so we began to do things with them and have them over to our house. And through that, we really built some deep relationships. Sometimes 7 days a week they were at our house. And the one girl particularly, she had been through an awful lot. Just about everything you can imagine she has been through. And we had the privilege and the difficulty of walking through some pretty tough things in her life. And really trying to help them and disciple them and just help them in their spiritual journey. One of the young men that was a part of the center there, his dad's a drug dealer and really didn't know his dad. And when my parents came over to visit us, he told my parents, he said, "John is the dad I never had." And so we saw that ministry that God had given us over in Ireland, and we said, man, that's needed here where we are. Because after working with the teens in teen camp and just seeing all the mess in their lives, and we thought, these young people, they need God. They need somebody to come alongside them and really help them. So we started something called Teen Connection. This is the first and third Tuesdays of the month. We have something for teens at the camp center there. So the first night we had over 20 teens come out, be outside of our family. It was like, wow, this is really great. And then the next time we had, COVID went through a lot of the young people. And so it was a little less, but we still had a good group out. And it was very obvious that this is something really needed. A lot of the churches are very, very small up in the North Country there, 20, 30 people. And so if there's a teen or two in the church, they don't have anything in the church for them. Because how can you do a youth group with, 1 or 2 kids? And so there's just a real need to come alongside these teens. And our desire is not to compete with churches and not to we can do something, and we're going to, do bigger and better. It's not that at all. The idea is really to bring the young people in and help them in their, spiritually. So I like alliteration from my preacher boy days. So we have fun, fellowship, and food, because that's always great with young people. And then I said, how in the world do I do an F for the Bible? And one of the young people said, faith. I said, that works. So we have the 4 Fs at our Teen Connection, and they have been enjoying it. It's just an opportunity to just pour into these young people's lives and really share Christ with them and try to disciple them. There's just such a need. So I threw it up here on the screen. If you don't currently get our newsletter, you'd like to, you can also sign up for, so we send out our own newsletter. Since we've been missionaries various places around the world, we've been sending out a newsletter for years now. But then on about a quarterly basis, we send out a newsletter for Mandeville. There's a paper copy of each on this table here. The one with our family on the top is our families. And the one with the picture there of our Mandeville sign is Mandeville's. There's not many copies, but please take them if you would like one as well. Is there anybody that has any questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So how many weeks do you do summer camp for?
Okay, so we do a week of training, and that'll be in the end of June, and then we're doing 3.5 weeks of camp from July 6th through the 30th, I believe it is. So we go, camp ends on a Saturday morning, and then Sunday night we bring in staff and start camp on Monday morning. So we get a little over 24 hours in between and go again. So that's our summer camps. We run 3 winter camps. We have various programs that we run during the fall. In the past, they've done things like a wild game dinner, a father-son thing. They do like a men's prayer thing they've done in the past. They typically have done in the spring about 3-day events, and they advertise that in the school. I couldn't do any of those this year because 2 of the guys that did them in the past that led them and did the teaching are out. And so I was like, well, I guess this is a good year we have to ease in. A lot of the things we're finding is at camp, the folks that used to be there said, oh, we would add something and then we would get the certifications required to run it. And I go, that worked for you guys, but here we are. We have a bus. I don't have my CDL. We need medical personnel. I don't have any medical. I mean, I've taken first aid and CPR many times, as a children's worker, but, I don't have a nursing or EMT or anything like that. I'm like, we're in trouble there. They're like, yeah, we've done air riflery and things like that at camp. I said, well, I obviously don't have the certifications for that. And they said, yeah, it's going to be hard. I said, I think this summer we're going to have to kind of cut back, and we're not going to be doing, taking the kids off and doing swimming and stuff like that, because you have to have a lifeguard for that, and I don't have my lifeguard certification. I said, we're going to run camp this summer and focus on God and stay on our campus. We have 200 and some acres. We can do this and have a fantastic time. But it's a lot of things down the road that my wife and I are going to have to, work on, getting our CDL. We'll probably work on EMT certifications and all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of things for us to work on in the future, just in case we get bored. So pray with us that God will just give us wisdom. Give us wisdom as to those decisions to be made. But 3.5 weeks of camp is the short, easy answer. Other questions?
Those usually come from other churches or in the area. How do you pull them in?
Obviously, we try to advertise, in the newspaper in various ways, send out flyers to previous campers and all that kind of stuff. So kids come from churches, they come from non-churches, they come from every background, basically, The work has been going there for 40-some years. The camp has been on the site there for 40-some years, so there's a lot of history. And I find people regularly that, I went to the, something at Mandeville when I was whatever age. I met a girl at the library. She goes, oh, I remember going there for a youth group or something sometime. And so it's really neat to hear there is history. There's a lot of need, though. More and more, like most of the world, it's become quite spiritually cold. And a lot of people have little to nothing to do with God or church or anything. So it's needed all the more. So so really we reach anybody and everybody, I guess, is the quick, easy answer. Anybody else?
So if somebody would volunteer their time to go up, do they have obviously a place to stay up there?
So on the grounds, we have our main building, our lodge, it's called, and in that is the dorms, the dining room, the kitchen. We then have something called the Creation Center, which serves a variety of uses besides a Creation Center. It has our games and as in pool and air hockey and all that kind of stuff. But then we have 2 staff cabins and we have 2 staff houses. The staff houses would be like where we're living in one, and when there were 2 families living on the grounds, they were, each family was in each. And then our staff cabins is where both our base campers would stay when we do that. That's the teens that are in training for future leadership. And then also, like, for instance, kitchen staff, our teens that might serve in the kitchen, they would be in there as well, typically. And we're starting a fundraising project to try to build on. Right now, they're just 16 by 20 cabins. There's a guys and a girls one. And the bathroom is actually on the end of the maintenance building and the shower, so the kids have to walk through the woods. And so that's just, I went in there this summer when I was there for 2 weeks, and I was like, I used it, went in there a few times, and I'm like, the mud was so thick you couldn't even see the floor, and I thought, I think we could do better than this. So my prayer is to be able to add on bathrooms for not just the use of our staff, but also then I see those as being a 4-season building. So there's already heat in there, but if we get a bathroom and I also want to put a kitchenette in there, that it would be something that we can use for groups, that they could use those. Groups could rent those. A place that, you could have a pastor or a missionary that just needs to get away for a break, and we can say, hey, you can come here and stay. Just, it's super cheap. Just cover electric and you can stay here. And so we would love to be able to have more opportunities for ministry then, but then also be a blessing to others. So that's our goal. There's a lot of opportunity on the grounds of 208 acres. There's so much opportunity there, and beautiful camp. But I'm always looking for, how can we reach more? How can I reach that one there that's not being reached yet? How can I do this? So pray that God will just give wisdom in how to funnel that vision and the energy to what he wants. You know, I'd love to be able to, I've done a lot of work in the schools when I was with CEF, and I'd love to be able to even get into the schools someday and start release time classes and after school clubs and be able to reach into the schools. And then, of course, then you're reaching them and hopefully getting them out to camp as well, and just multifaceted. And so that's, you know, long-term, big vision. As God provides the staff and what we need, that's what I'd love to see. I'd love to be able to keep reaching more and more. And of course, as believers, that should always be our goal, right? To reach our neighbors, reach the cashier at the store, reach the people in our lives. And that's my desire. That's my heart. Just really pray for even our adjustments to the North Country. It's a big change. You know, it's been tough on the kids. They've been totally ripped out of one area to another area in the last 4 or 5 years. We've lived, I don't know how many places. And so that's been, you know, tough on them, tough on all of us. And so just pray for those continued, you know, adjustments to that as well. Any other questions?
Other than email and newsletter, how do you use the internet and social media to kind of spread the word about the ministry in this camp?
Yeah, there's always room for improvement. I right now am really struggling to keep up with everything because, again, I'm doing what 2 couples were doing before. We homeschool our kids, and so Callie's really busy with that, as you can imagine, with 6 kids in school. And so she definitely helps, and the kids all help, and they do things. You know, the guys, older boys are like, Dad, we can mow this summer. You don't need a maintenance person. We can fix things. And I'm going, yeah, well. There's just a lot to be done. And so I'm struggling keeping up with everything. I have a computer science background, but I just am struggling we have Facebook, we have Instagram and some of these, but I'm really struggling to keep up with it. One of the big things we're doing, every year our mission does something called Reach Day on April 29th. And on that day, all gifts that come in over that 24-hour period, and they can't go to a missionary. They're for special projects or a camp, and all of the normal admin fees they waive on that day. So they're like, okay, this is coming up. You got to be doing all these social media posts. I'm going, I'll try, guys, I'll try. So if all the money we raise on that day, and our big project is trying to raise money for those staff cabin additions, is we don't lose any of the percentage off the top for the administrative fees. So I'm like, okay, let's try to raise thousands that day, you know, and Lord willing, we'll be able to do those cabin additions even this fall. I'd love to see that happen. So we have so many needs. If you've been around Christian ministry long at all, you know, everybody likes to donate stuff that didn't work for them, but somehow we will be able to use it. So we have probably 50 plus what I call big, large paperweights around the grounds, which is like 5 riding lawn mowers, at least. All of them need something done on them. You know, none of them work right at this point. At the very least, they need a tire, which that's easy, but, you know, I need a weld, wheels on one of them. It's like so much work to be done. We have a very large paperweight that most people would call a backhoe, but I'm calling it a paperweight because it does not run at all, which try to run a camp without big equipment like that, and it's like, it's fun. We got 21 ton of stone delivered the other day because vehicles were sinking into our driveway, and my boys and I moved it mainly by hand because nothing is working right now. So we have a need for somebody that's got skill. Anybody out there that's got skill in fixing large equipment? We have that need as well. So I want to reach out and try to get some people that might have some skills there to be able to maybe get our backhoe working so we can actually move dirt with it and stone and all the stuff. We cut our own firewood there. for the lodge and for one of the staff cabins, so that's like 50 cord or something a year, I think they said they go through. That's a lot of firewood. So there's always, they do work days where the guys from the area, from churches will come in and they'll cut and split. So there's always work to be done, you know, just in case I ever get busy. You know, there's you know, if I'm ever bored at 8, 9 at night, there's still stuff to be done, you know. So, you know, there's always work to be done. And even for me, I would appreciate your prayers that I don't do too much. Because my personality is such that I just see this needs done and I have to do it. Well, do you actually have to do it, or are you just, you know, neglecting the family? So I would certainly appreciate your prayers for that. I've been putting in a lot of 12-plus hour days, and it's like, okay, I really need to be careful because the family actually does need to see me too, you know, and need time with me. So appreciate your prayers there as well. Any last questions? No? Okay.
I'm guessing that's Micah.
That's Micah. You know, I just realized, I think I'm reading your clock wrong. I think it's actually 10 to 12, and I'm looking at it going, oh man, I need to end. It's time to end. Oh well, we're good there.
So, go ahead and bow your head, please. As John was sharing about the fact that needs are up there, you know, maybe there's something that God is moving in your heart in any of the areas. Say, you know, I can take a week off on this date and I can go up there that and do something. And if you feel like, you know, something you can do, let's talk about it, pray about it, and see how we can meet some of these needs. Please pray for this dear family as they're going to Pennsylvania next, and share with some churches there, and get back up north. So, just want to let. I'm curious, do we have any EMT? I'm just curious, because I don't even know the answers. Do we have any nurses or EMTs in our church?
That's fine.
Where are you?
We used to be EMTs.
Okay.
We used to be, with the,
I used to be a
White House
millionaire,
Rescue
too.
Squad.
So, are you still certified?
No, it's been many years.
Okay, we have,
We have to do that.
how hard to get be certified? We also got EMTs and nurses. Anybody here, we hear a nurse or anything like that? I'm just curious. Oh, Mel's a nurse? Really, you're a nurse? My, what's your husband do for a living? Can you tell what your husband does for a living, please? What's your husband do for a living? Oh, yeah, the excavation company? Also, he knows about that big machinery stuff. Okay. I was just curious.
Is he playing the Holy Spirit now?
That's not, you your states, that's certified your states and hospital as well.
What's that?
You certified your states and hospital as well.
Oh, right. Cardiac, over. I used to be thin. All right, so I'm teasing Jim because I know truly with no exaggeration, he is so far, working all. So I don't know if you can take a week off, so I'm just teasing a little. Let's go ahead and pray. Heavenly Father, we do pray for Cornwall family. We just ask you, please just meet your every need up there. Thank you for the willingness to go and serve in that area. Even as we're on the road today, may you give them travel mercy. And may they have sweet fellowship, the other churches they have to come in contact with. Lord, also, I just ask that as they come back to the States, that you would just help them with their support, that they might have just their basic needs or taken care of. So we thank you and trust you with this. Heavenly Father, as we dismiss for our fellowship, have a time together around the table, may you please bless the food and bless our fellowship. So Lord, we love you. Thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So we are, if you want to visit for a couple minutes,